Aita for refusing to pay my sister-in-law bill after she excluded me on a luxury trip. I paid for my wife's family's luxury trip, but my sister-in-law spent the whole time excluding me. So miserable. What was supposed to be an unforgettable family trip turned into a nightmare. Thanks to my 36-year-old sister-in-law Camilla, I'm here with my wife Laura, 40, whom I've been happily married to for 12 wonderful years, and her elderly parents Joel, 74, and Anna, 7,012 days into the trip were enough to leave me exhausted. By the way, Camilla has been treating me. Laura and I have built a comfortable life over the past decade. We both hold executive positions in our companies and have worked hard to get where we are. Our lifestyle reflects our efforts. We take at least 3 big trips a year, plus weekend getaways to break the routine. We decided not to have children, which gives us the freedom to travel extensively. In recent years, we started including Laura's parents on one of our annual trips. Joe's health has been declining rapidly. Anna has difficulty managing trips alone. This trip in particular held special meaning. Joel expressed his desire to visit Miami, the city where he and Anna spent their honeymoon almost 5 decades ago. There was an urgency in his voice when he mentioned it, as if he feared this might be his last chance to relive those memories. When he offered to help with the trip's cost, I immediately refused. They've treated me like a son for all these years. I wanted to do this for them. Everything changed when Camilla asked to join the trip. Unlike us, her financial situation has always been difficult, with 2 young children and a husband who barely covers the family's basic expenses. Camilla frequently laments that she hasn't been able to take a decent vacation since her honeymoon. This year, she approached us directly asking to join the trip, knowing I would have to cover all her expenses. Reluctantly, I agreed. After all, family's supposed to help family, right? From the moment we landed in Miami, something seemed off. Right after arriving at the resort, Camilla suggested taking a family photo with the beautiful ocean view in the background. I took out my phone to set the timer and include everyone in the photo, but she interrupted me. "Can you take the picture for us? We just want the 4 of us, Mom, Dad, Laura, and me." Her words were like a slap in the face, but I kept quiet. Maybe they just wanted a picture of the original nuclear family that wasn't an isolated incident. Camilla made this a recurring theme throughout the trip. Every tourist spot, restaurant, or memorable moment, she found a way to exclude me. Just the 4 of us. "This is just for the family." I became the official photographer, always behind the camera, while my wife and her parents created memories without me. Worse, Camilla started posting those photos on social media, creating a narrative where I didn't even seem to exist on this family trip. Laura would occasionally intervene and insist that I was part of the family. Camilla always found a way to manipulate the situation. I ended up out of the picture once again. I felt like a walking ATM and personal photographer for what appeared to be the perfect family reunion. One in which I wasn't welcome. On the 3rd day, as we prepared for a boat trip, the exclusion was even more blatant. The boats had 2 seats per row, perfect for a family of 4, but we were 5. Camilla, without hesitation, arranged the seats. Joel and Anna would sit together while she sat next to Laura, leaving me alone in another boat among strangers. When they returned with a souvenir photo from the boat ride, it was further proof of another memory I wasn't included in after the boat trip episode. I realized that no matter how hard I tried, I would always be the excluded element of the trip. The last straw came during a dinner I had meticulously planned. I booked a table at one of Miami's most exclusive restaurants with a breathtaking sunset view. It was the perfect opportunity to create a special and memorable moment for Joel and Anna, as it was above all tribute to their history. Upon arrival, the host led us to a round table for 6 strategically positioned to enjoy the sunset. I had planned everything. Laura and I would sit together with the best view. Her parents would sit across from us while Camilla could occupy one of the side seats. It was simple and everyone could enjoy it, but before I could even move a chair, Camilla darted to Laura's side, monopolizing the view. Anna and Joel naturally sat across, and I ended up relegated to the least favorable corner, my view blocked by the waiters coming and going. When Laura suggested rearranging the seats, Camilla quickly retorted, "Please, Laura, don't be so cling. It's a family trip. You can sit next to your husband at home." The phrase carried a tone of disdain that made me want to get up and leave during dinner. Camilla dominated the conversation, steering it towards childhood memories and family stories in which I obviously had no part. Every time I tried to interject, she changed the subject or completely ignored my words. The exclusion was no longer subtle. It was blatantly intentional. The night only got worse. While everyone seemed to be having fun, I'm mentally disconnected. Laura tried to take my hand under the table, but it wasn't enough. I was at a dinner I had funded in a restaurant I had chosen, sitting among people who treated me as if I were invisible. Culmination of the exclusion came the next day. During a visit to the spa, I had booked private suites for everyone, one for Laura and me, another for her parents, and another for Camilla. When Joao decided to stay at the beach due to fatigue, thought the spa would be an opportunity to relax together. But once again, Camilla found a way to leave me out with a seemingly innocent smile. She suggested that I stay at the beach with Joel so they could have a girls' day. Laura tried to intervene, but I reassured her that it was okay. In reality, it wasn't. Okay. While Camilla and Laura enjoyed massages and luxury bath that I had paid for, I sat on the sand with Joel. To my surprise, that was the most meaningful moment of the trip so far. Joel, with his usual serenity, shared stories of his youth, his career, and precious moments he had lived with Anna. His wisdom was contagious, and his sincere gratitude made me realize that, at least to him, I was valued. Still, frustration continued to build. Talking to Joel brought me some peace, but it didn't erase the fact that Camilla was turning a trip that was meant to be special into an exercise of calculated exclusion. When I finally had the opportunity to discuss the matter with Laura in our room, she tried to justify her sister's behavior. "Camilla doesn't mean any harm," she said almost automatically. "She's trying to recreate moments we never had when we were girls. My parents were never able to take us on vacations like this. Maybe that explains why she's so focused on the four of us." Laura wanted me to see things from Camilla's perspective, but to me, it was clear that her actions went far beyond nostalgia or unresolved feelings. Camilla knew exactly what she was doing, and Laura wasn't prepared to confront her. I remained silent, but inside a decision was starting to form. I had been kind, patient, and understanding up to that point. This had to end the next morning. While having breakfast at the resort restaurant, I realized I couldn't continue ignoring the situation. Camilla once again monopolized the conversation, reinforcing the dynamics she had established since the beginning of the trip. She laughed loudly, showed carefully selected photos on her phone, all excluding me, and commented on how much this trip was a dream come true. That comment hit me differently that morning. It was a dream for her, but at what cost? Treating me like a stranger, constantly excluding me, turning something I had funded with the best intentions into a bitter experience for me. I looked at Laura, who gave me a silent, apologetic look, but it wasn't enough anymore. I needed to do something. The opportunity came during the hotel checkout on the last day of the trip. Camilla, carefree, was at the pool area taking selfies while I organized the final details with the reception. The bill was high as expected, but something caught my attention. All the additional expenses, spa treatments, exclusive dinners, cocktails by the pool, mini-bar products were listed under my name. That's when I made my decision with a polite smile. I asked the manager to separate the bill by room. I explained that it was for administrative reasons. He fulfilled my request without any problems. When he returned with the separate bills, took a deep breath. I paid for my expenses, Laura's and her parents'. Just as I had planned from the beginning, Camilla's room. I left that exactly as it was. Shortly after, Camilla arrived, animated, probably eager to go to the airport and post more pictures of the perfect trip. When the manager politely handed her the bill for her room, the expression on her face changed instantly. She looked at the paper, then at me, confused. "What is this?" she asked, holding the bill as if it were a grotesque mistake. "It's your bill, Camilla," I replied calmly. "I've already paid for my expenses, Loris and your parents. These are the costs of your room and the extras you enjoyed." The silence was palpable. Camilla staggered, something about me having said I would cover the trip. "Yes," I replied. "I offered to cover the basic expenses, but I don't think it makes sense to pay for every cocktail, every spa treatment you decided to have, especially considering how you treated me during this trip." The manager, sensing the tension, discreetly withdrew. Camilla tried to argue, but I stood firm. Finally, she took out her credit card, her face red with embarrassment. The first attempt was declined, and the second one too. Each time the manager said transaction denied, I noticed the panic growing in her eyes. Finally, she took out her phone to call her husband. The conversation was brief and tense, with his tone of voice rising as she explained the situation. The message was clear: couldn't handle that amount. The responsibility was hers. The minutes that followed were pure awkwardness. Camilla stepped aside to try to resolve the situation, and I took the opportunity to relax in the lobby. Laura knew exactly what was happening, but she didn't say anything. In fact, for the first time, I noticed a flicker of understanding in her eyes, as if she finally accepted that Camilla had gone too far. After more than half an hour of calls and negotiations, Camilla managed to cover the bill, probably with an emergency payment sent by her husband. When she finally returned, her expression was a mixture of shame and rage. She knew I was to blame for what happened for the first time during the whole trip. I didn't care. After the tense episode during checkout, we headed to the airport. The atmosphere between us was unbearably heavy, but I was at peace with my actions. Camilla, on the other hand, maintained a stormy silence, alternating between looking at her phone and giving me reproachful glances. Laura tried to lighten the atmosphere, but without much success. The airport things got even more interesting. Before leaving the hotel, I had already booked upgrades to business class for myself, Laura, and her parents. I wanted them to end the trip comfortably, especially Joel, who was visibly tired. Camilla, however, wasn't included in this small gesture. When we arrived at the check-in counter, she realized that she hadn't checked in online and that I hadn't done it for her. While Laura and I calmly went through the priority lane, Camilla was forced to face the long economy class line. The moment she passed through our area and business class on her way to the back of the plane was delicious. The expression of frustration on her face was the icing on the cake. Laura gave me a look that mixed reproach and understanding, but she didn't say anything. I knew she understood why I was doing this. Even though she might have her reservations during the flight, took the opportunity to relax, finally feeling that I had regained some control of the situation. Joel and Anna seemed grateful for the trip, and Joel even commented that he had enjoyed our conversations on the beach that reaffirmed that despite all the effort and investment, it had been worth it, not for Camilla, but for my in-laws who truly deserved it. Upon landing, Camilla was visibly irritated. She practically ran towards her parents in the baggage claim area, tears streaming down her face, as she began her dramatic recounting. According to her, I had abandoned her at the hotel, publicly humiliated her, and deliberately excluded her from the flight upgrades. Of course, she conveniently omitted the entire week of exclusion that she herself had cost. Joel, already exhausted, was visibly uncomfortable with Camilla's behavior before he could say anything. Anna intervened. "Enough, Camilla," she said firmly. "We saw what you did during the entire trip. We tried to include Felipe in all the photos, but you insisted on excluding him. You abused his patience and generosity. And now you are reaping what you sowed," and his words were like a direct hit. Camilla opened her mouth to respond, closed it immediately with no argument. It was evident that for the first time, someone in the family was setting clear boundaries for her behavior. Instead of accepting responsibility, Camilla redirected her anger towards Laura. "You allowed this, Laura," she yelled. "You and that arrogant husband of yours conspired to humiliate me. He uses money to control everyone. You're complicit in it. I hope you're prepared for when he betrays you, because men like him always do." The attack was low and senseless. Before Laura could respond, Joel spoke. Despite being tired, his voice conveyed authority. "Camilla, enough. Felipe has done more for you on this trip than you deserved. If you can't thank him, at least be quiet." Joe's intervention ended the discussion. Camilla remained silent, though her gaze still burned with resentment. Tension in the car during the drive back home was almost palpable, but no one spoke about what happened. When we finally arrived at my in-laws' house, "Go out," gave me a long and sincere hug. It was a moment of silent gratitude, powerful. The gesture made all the inconveniences of the trip seem insignificant. Despite the drama, I knew I had done the right thing. In the days following the trip, the silence was deafening. Camilla made no effort to get in touch. I didn't bother to reach out either. Laura and I returned to our routine, avoiding the subject. Until one night, she finally brought it up. "Camilla is facing a lot of consequences, right?" She started, her voice cautious. "Her husband is furious because he had to empty their savings to cover the debts she accumulated. It seems he's demanding she pay him back everything." I simply nodded without feeling a shred of regret. It was hard to empathize with someone who spent a week treating me like an intruder in my own generosity. "I understand what you did," Laura continued, "and honestly think she needed it. Camilla has spent years taking advantage of others, always expecting someone to rescue her. But Philippe, maybe it was a little harsh." "Harsh?" I asked, trying to contain the indignation in my voice. "Laura, I paid for this trip for your family. Every detail was planned so that everyone could enjoy it, including Camilla. What did she do? She excluded me from everything. Do you really think she deserved for me to continue being her dorm?" At Laura's side and shook her head. "No, you're right. She needed a reality check. I just hope she learned something from this." But it seemed Camilla wasn't learning. The following week, during lunch with Anna, my mother-in-law revealed more details about Camilla's situation. Her husband wasn't just upset, he was seriously considering divorce. Camilla, instead of taking responsibility, constantly attacking him, blaming him for not earning enough to sustain the lifestyle she believed she deserved. She started demanding he get a second job, Anna said, visibly distressed. "He already works all day, Felipe. Now she wants him to take care of the house and the children too, because she refuses to change her part-time schedule." This trip changed her, not for the better. I felt a mix of frustration and guilt, not for making Camilla pay her bills but for somehow having triggered such a negative change in her honor. However, was quick to reassure me. "You're not to blame for this. She's always had this behavior, but now it's more evident. We just hope she realizes what she's doing before she destroys her marriage." Things came to a head on Thanksgiving. My mother-in-law organized a special celebration, knowing that Joe's health was worsening day by day. However, Camilla and her husband didn't attend. According to Anna, he refused to sit at the same table as me, claiming I had humiliated Camilla publicly. It was at that moment that Anna decided to reveal the truth. I showed him the photos from her social media. Anna said with unusual firmness, "I showed him every photo where she excluded you. Every moment she created to push you away from the family, couldn't deny it." He saw that her story didn't match reality. The photos ironically became the clearest proof of the manipulation. Her narrative crumbled, but instead of admitting her mistakes, she directed her anger towards her own husband, blaming him for not supporting her unconditionally. The arguments at home intensified. Now, Anna and Joe were doing everything they could to protect Joe's health from all the chaos. During Thanksgiving dinner, Laura and I reflected on how our good intentions to include Camilla on the trip had gone so wrong. "Maybe we should have set boundaries from the beginning," Laura said, clearly regretting not having intervened sooner, but also maybe she really needed this wake-up call. The following months brought little change. Camilla remained trapped in her cycle of denial, and her marriage hung by a thread. Still, something inside me hoped she would learn her lesson. In the end, it wasn't about the money. It was about respect, about treating people with dignity, especially those who extend a helping hand. When Anna visited us during the holidays, she brought some relief. Camilla finally admitted that she needs to change. She told us, "I don't know if it will be enough to save her marriage, but at least it's a start." I didn't know if it was true or just a mother's wishful thinking. But I decided to put the issue behind me. The experience was a valuable reminder that generosity shouldn't come at the expense of self-respect. And in the end, what really mattered was that I had done what I considered right. The final lesson came from Joel in one of our last moments together before his health deteriorated drastically. "You have a good heart, Felipe. No matter what they say, you did the right thing. Sometimes people need to learn the hard way." Joe was right. Some lessons like this one come with a high price, but in Camilla's case, the price, she chose it herself. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the next story.